Superior pond, superior care. Your backyard retreat beyond compare. Minnesota's finest at your call. Your pond stays perfect all year long.
Welcome to today's deep dive. I'm so glad you're joining us. So every single year, thousands of well-meaning homeowners accidentally turn their beautiful backyards into like these dangerous flooded traps.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
And they do it for one very simple reason. They assume that a puddle in the ground is just a pond waiting to happen.
Right. It is, I'd say it's the ultimate landscaping illusion. Because, we are fundamentally wired to trust our eyes.
Oh, for sure.
Like when we look at a brick patio, a pile of bricks is just a pile of bricks arranged on the ground. The surface kind of tells the whole story.
Yeah.
But a water feature operates on completely different physical laws.
Completely different.
Yeah. What looks like a serene finished product is essentially a facade. It's masking a highly complex hydraulic machine underneath.
And that tension right there, the tension between aesthetics and engineering, that is the core mission of our deep dive today. We're going to explore the hidden physics, the environmental mechanics, and honestly, the surprising hazards of backyard water features.
There are a lot of them.
There really are. Specifically, we're tearing down the illusion of the partially started ponds. And our source material today is this really fascinating, insightful article from Superior Ponds. They're a contractor based out of Minnesota.
Yeah, and to understand why this illusion is so pervasive, we need to look at a very common scenario from that article.
Let's do it.
So imagine a couple, we'll call them Brian and Melissa. They live in Eagan, Minnesota, and they have a natural low spot in their backyard right behind the patio.
Right.
Over the years, they landscaped it into this beautiful, shallow basin filled with decorative river rock.
Which is a rain garden.
Exactly.
And from a hydrological standpoint, that's like a brilliant piece of functional landscaping. During a heavy storm, all the runoff from their roof and lawn naturally channels into that rocky depression.
Yep, it flows right in.
The basin fills up, it creates this temporary, peaceful little pond for maybe a day or two,
Yeah.
and then the water slowly percolates down through the soil and gravel back into the water table.
And the mechanics of that percolation are just vital because native plants and loose gravel, they create these channels in the topsoil. So the basin acts as a massive sponge.
In the sponge.
It catches the deluge, it decelerates the water, and it safely manages the infiltration rate so the surrounding yard doesn't just erode away. So, it does exactly what it is engineered to do.
But human nature, right? We always want a little bit more.
Oh, always.
So Brian and Melissa, they watch this temporary pond, and they want it to be permanent. They want that aesthetic of a water garden year-round without, having to wait for a thunderstorm to roll through.
Makes sense.
Yeah, they look at their beautifully dug hole, complete with the river rock, and they make a completely logical but fundamentally flawed assumption. They assume the hard work is basically done.
Right. They figure they just need to buy a rubber liner, lay it over the rocks, fill it with a hose, and boom, they've got a permanent koi pond.
Right, but okay, let's unpack this. Because the psychology behind that assumption, it makes perfect sense to me. The visual elements, the hole, the shape, the rocks, they're already there.
Yeah, they are.
So I have to ask, on behalf of you listening right now, if the hole is already dug and the rocks are there, why can't you just line it? It feels like having a cake that's already baked and you just need to add the frosting,
I get that a lot. But treating a drainage basin like an unfinished pond is, well, it's like trying to build a concrete foundation underneath a house that has already been framed, roofed, and painted.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You're dealing with two completely opposing systems. A rain garden is designed to let water escape into the earth, but a pond is designed to hold water with 0% permeability.
0%. Okay, but what about the physical hole itself?
Building a pond isn't a top-down thing. It is strictly a bottom-up process. The liner isn't the final step. It is the literal foundation. And the geometry of a rain garden is entirely wrong for holding standing water.
Because it's basically just a smooth, shallow bowl.
Exactly. And if you line a smooth bowl and fill it with thousands of pounds of water, you lack the structural geometry to distribute that weight safely. A proper pond requires a strict, non-negotiable, 5-step architectural sequence.
5 steps. Okay, so step 1 has to be reshaping the earth, right?
Step 1 is highly specialized excavation. You can't just have a slope. The earth has to be carved with distinct stair-step structural shelves.
Like actual stairs in the dirt.
Yes. And those shelves perform three critical functions. First, they stabilize the walls against fluctuating dynamic water pressure. Second, they provide safe, variable depths for different types of aquatic plants. And third, they create the necessary depth to manage temperature swings.
Okay, so you've carved your dirt stairs, but you still can't just drop the rubber liner in, right?
No, absolutely not. Step 2 is the bottom underlayment.
Like a padding.
Heavy-duty, professional-grade underlayment. Because the soil underneath the pond isn't static. It shifts, roots grow, and hydrostatic pressure pushes little rocks upward over time.
So it's protecting the liner from below.
Exactly. It's an engineered barrier designed specifically to prevent those microscopic, abrasive movements from puncturing the water barrier.
Which brings us to the barrier itself. Step 3. And usually we're talking about an EPDM liner, right?
Yes, EPDM, ethylene propylene diene monomer.
Quite a mouthful.
It really is. It's a synthetic rubber, and it's prized for its elasticity. And that elasticity is non-negotiable. It can stretch and deform without tearing, which is essential when the ground inevitably settles under all that weight.
Plus it resists UV degradation from the sun.
It does. But the installation requires immense precision. If you stretch that EPDM too tightly across those excavated shelves we talked about, the sheer weight of the water will snap it over time.
Wait, really? It'll just snap?
Oh yeah. It has to be laid in with the exact right amount of slack.
Fascinating. Okay, and then kind of counterintuitively, step 4 is another layer of underlayment, but this time on top of the rubber.
Right. You need that pop layer to protect the EPDM from the final and probably most misunderstood step of the process. Step 5 is the rock and gravel armoring.
Ah, okay. This is where we get into the biology of the system, because I think a lot of people assume the rocks at the bottom of a pond are just there to look pretty, or maybe to weigh the liner down.
Most people do think that.
But armoring the entire submerged system with heavy stone is actually what creates the filtration engine, doesn't it?
Yes, the biological mechanics of that rock layer are just fascinating. Because in a closed water system, organic waste from leaves, dust, fish waste, it naturally accumulates.
And without intervention, that water just turns toxic.
Exactly. So the heavy stone and gravel armoring provides thousands of square feet of microscopic surface area, and this massive surface area becomes a home for beneficial bacteria, specifically Nitrosomonas and Nitrobacter.
Ah, the nitrogen cycle in action.
You got it. Those bacteria colonize the rocks, and they literally consume the ammonia produced by the decaying organic matter. They convert it into nitrites, and then into relatively harmless nitrates.
Which the aquatic plants then just absorb as fertilizer.
Precisely. The rock armor isn't just a decorative finish. It is the biological liver of the pond. It keeps the water clear and safe.
So if you skip that whole 5-step structure and just toss a liner into a shallow rain garden bowl, you aren't building a pond, you're building a stagnant, toxic puddle.
A toxic puddle that is structurally guaranteed to fail.
Okay, let's explore those structural failures. Because reading the source material, these failures aren't just inconvenient, they're actively dangerous.
Very dangerous.
How does a seemingly harmless backyard water depression turn into a literal trap?
Well, we're introducing a massive amount of weight into a space without the infrastructure to support it. If someone lines that smooth, steep bowl shape we talked about, you trigger a chain reaction of hydrostatic pressure failures.
Because the weight of the water pushing out against the soil is constant.
Right, it's constant, but the soil behind the liner is dynamic. So when it rains, the earth surrounding this makeshift pond gets saturated and incredibly heavy. And that wet soil begins pushing inward against the rubber.
Because water seeps equilibrium.
Yes. And without those engineered stair-step structural shells to brace the weight, the inward lateral pressure of that saturated soil will simply cave the wall of the pond inward.
Oh, wow. So the whole thing collapses on itself.
The entire structure just collapses.
That is terrifying. But that's just the geological hazard. The physical properties of the liner itself create an immediate surface-level danger too, right?
Definitely. Wet EPDM rubber is incredibly slick. The friction coefficient drops to virtually zero when algae and water coat the surface. It is the equivalent of wet ice.
Wet ice, so if you don't have the rock armoring...
The lack of friction turns an unarmored pond into a severe slip hazard. When DIY setups leave the steep edges of the rubber liner exposed, it creates this inescapable slope.
It's essentially a funnel. I read in the Superior Ponds article about pets falling in. If a small family dog wanders in to get a drink and slips, it's physically impossible for them to get the traction to climb out.
It's heartbreaking, but landscape contractors routinely encounter scenarios where family pets are lost or homeowners themselves end up hospitalized.
Just from slipping.
Yeah, simply because they stepped on an unprotected, wet piece of liner hidden by the grass, and their feet just flew out from under them. The safety standards of proper stone armoring are designed specifically to eliminate that sheer surface.
Okay, so that's the danger everywhere.
Yeah.
But regional climate forces multiply these dangers exponentially.
Yep.
If we look back at Brian and Melissa in Minnesota, the deep freeze fundamentally alters the physics of the ground.
Oh, absolutely. The frost line in northern climates dictates all underground engineering. A shallow rain garden basin might only be, say, 18 inches deep.
Right.
If you convert that into a pond and put koi in it, those fish lack a thermal refuge.
Meaning they need water deep enough that the ambient heat of the earth keeps the bottom layer liquid even when the top freezes over?
Exactly. If the excavation doesn't go below the frost line, the entire water column freezes into a solid block, destroying the biological ecosystem. I mean, the koi literally freeze to death.
That's awful.
And beyond that, the mechanical force of freezing water is staggering. According to the Minnesota DNR details we looked at, soil moisture expands by roughly 9% when it freezes.
Which causes frost heave.
Yes, immense lateral and upward pressure that grips the sides of the pond.
And then spring arrives, the ground thaws, the snow melts, and you get massive groundwater surges. The water table rises rapidly, creating this extreme pressure differential outside the liner.
And an improperly engineered shell will literally be pushed out of the ground. It'll bubble up or just tear open.
Wow. Okay, so we've established the physical and biological hazards of the just add a liner myth, but there is another major consequence to wrapping a drainage basin in rubber.
The drainage disaster.
Exactly. We have to look at what this does to the yard's overall ecosystem and the homeowner's wallet. It sounds like plugging the drain in your bathtub while the faucet is running, just because you think the plug looks pretty.
That is a perfect analogy, because you are intentionally disabling your property's primary safety valve.
So what does this actually mean for the homeowner's property?
Well, the University of Minnesota Extension's water management guidelines prioritize stormwater infiltration for a reason. You want water to decelerate and percolate down, but an EPDM liner operates at 100% impermeability.
It stops infiltration entirely.
Entirely. So when that heavy summer storm hits, the exact storm the original depression was designed to manage, that massive volume of water hits the rubber and has absolutely nowhere to go but up and out.
You've basically taken a functional drainage solution and transformed it into a flooding catalyst.
Exactly. The water seeks the path of least resistance. Instead of sinking safely into the aquifer, hundreds of gallons of runoff overflow the banks.
And it causes severe issues.
Huge issues. It accelerates soil erosion, it swamps neighboring properties, and worst of all, it inevitably pools back toward the foundation of the house.
Flooding the basement.
Flooding the basement, ruining the crawl space. Just massive water damage.
Okay, so let's assume a homeowner processes all of this. They understand the physics, they respect the safety hazards, they don't want to flood their house, and they decide to do it the right way.
Good for them.
They hire a specialized hydraulic contractor to build the proper 5-step system, but they still think, well, the hole is already there, and I already bought all these beautiful river rocks. That should give me a massive head start on the budget, right?
Oh, man. That brings us to the financial shocker of this whole thing. The concept of moving everything twice.
Let's hear it.
The reality of retrofitting a partially started water feature is that it almost always costs the exact same amount, if not more, than building a brand new system on completely untouched grass.
Wait, really? More?
Yeah.
Because you can't build a foundation without accessing bare earth.
Precisely. To implement that vital bottom-up sequence, the contractor has to dismantle the existing illusion. Every single decorative river rock has to be manually hauled out of the basin and staged elsewhere on the property.
All the gravel has to be shoveled out.
The plants must be uprooted. You are basically paying for a complete demolition phase before construction even begins.
Wow.
And once the hole is empty, they still have to bring in heavy machinery to completely re-excavate the space. Because, as we established, the smooth bowl of a rain garden is structurally useless.
So they have to dig much deeper to reach that thermal refuge depth, carve in the structural terraces, and haul away all the newly displaced soil.
Yep. The pre-existing hole didn't save time at all. It merely complicated the logistics.
That is wild. And it really highlights a crucial distinction in the trades, I think. Because a general landscaper is an expert at grading, shaping land, installing hardscapes. But specialized water feature construction is a discipline of hydraulic engineering and aquatic biology.
Completely different disciplines.
You can't just bolt hydraulic engineering onto an existing depression in the ground.
No, you can't. And industry studies from Aquascape, NALP, and Pond Trade magazine, they consistently show that the highest failure rates in residential water features occur precisely because a generalist skips structural steps to try and utilize an existing inappropriate hole.
So this leaves homeowners like Brian and Melissa in a really tough spot, because we know the profound dangers of forcing a rain garden to act like a koi pond. We understand the flooding risks, the structural collapse, the staggering costs of moving everything twice.
Right.
But they still want that beautiful, permanent, year-round water feature. So if they can't safely have a pond in that drainage area, what is the engineering solution? Here's where it gets really interesting.
It does. The solution lies in a system that manages the hydrology invisibly. The industry calls them rain collection water features.
Visually, these are those disappearing pondless waterfalls, bubbling boulders, or decorative fountains, right?
Exactly. Aesthetically, it looks like a waterfall cascading down a rock face and simply vanishing into a bed of gravel.
Mm.
But the actual mechanism is what we might call a subterranean vault or an underground cistern.
So if they can't have a pond, how do these disappearing features actually work? Is it essentially a hidden underground water tower?
Pretty much. The magic of the system is entirely hidden. The visible water feature sits directly on top of a massive, load-bearing reservoir buried deep beneath the surface.
So we're recreating the sponge effect of the rain garden, but we're supersizing it.
Exactly right. When a massive rainstorm hits, all that excess yard runoff flows into the rock basin, just as it did with the original rain garden. But instead of pooling on top of the soil, the water instantly drops through the gravel down into this enormous underground vault.
And reading the source material, this vault is usually constructed using heavy-duty modular matrix blocks.
Yeah, they look a bit like sturdy milk crates.
Right. And they support the immense weight of the decorative stone above them while maintaining an open void space below that holds thousands of gallons of water.
And inside that void space is a high-efficiency pump. The pump continuously draws water from the subterranean vault and recirculates it up to the bubbling boulder or the waterfall on the surface.
So why is this recirculation superior to a traditional pond when you're dealing with a natural drainage area?
Because it completely neutralizes the issue of parasitic stagnation. I mean, traditional rain barrels or standing puddles, they rapidly become breeding grounds for mosquitoes and harmful bacteria.
Oh yeah, stagnant water gets gross fast.
It really does. But by constantly moving and tumbling the water over the rocks at the surface, the cistern naturally oxygenates the supply. It stays crystal clear without requiring the homeowner to manage a delicate biological ecosystem.
Plus, there are no fish to keep alive through a winter freeze, no complex nitrogen cycles to balance, and absolutely no standing water for a child or pet to slip into.
Exactly. The maintenance drops to near zero. And furthermore, because that subterranean vault has such a massive capacity, it functions as a highly effective surge protector for your property's drainage.
Oh, I love that phrase. A surge protector for drainage.
Yeah, it absorbs the sudden heavy rainfall. It protects your house from foundation flooding while still providing a stunning architectural focal point every single day of the year.
It's brilliant, but engineering of that caliber involves serious infrastructure, which means a significant financial investment, doesn't it?
It does. These hidden systems routinely average between $10,000 and $25,000 or more. And homeowners often experience sticker shock because they evaluate the price based on what they can see.
Just a few wet rocks and a pump.
Right.
Right.
They aren't accounting for the subterranean engineering. You are paying for a commercial-grade vault that has to withstand the crushing lateral pressure of the Minnesota deep freeze.
It has to be hydraulically modeled to handle the specific runoff calculations of your yard slope and roofline.
And it has to support thousands of pounds of stone without the earth collapsing around it. It is heavy, functional infrastructure that just happens to be disguised as art.
Disguised as art. That is perfectly said. Because when you have a vital drainage area that you want to beautify, a subterranean vault really is the safest, smartest, and most structurally sound path forward.
It really is.
And, understanding the mechanics of these systems, it completely changes how you look at the built environment around you. Whether you are staring at a damp depression in your own backyard right now, or you're planning a landscaping project, or you're just fascinated by everyday engineering, the core lesson here is profound.
It's all about what's underneath.
Exactly. True expertise lies in recognizing the complex systems operating beneath the surface. Just because a space looks visually complete does not mean it is structurally sound. A finished-looking hole is not a finished-looking system.
No, visual simplicity often masks immense mechanical complexity.
So let's briefly recap the engineering principles we've covered today. We explore why proper water features are built strictly from the bottom up, relying on a 5-step inverted roof structure where the liner serves as the foundation, not the finish line. We examine the physics of why sealing a natural drainage basin with impermeable rubber effectively points a flood hose directly at your home's foundation.
Never a good idea.
Never. And we discovered that sometimes the safest and most impressive water feature you can build is one where the real engineering is entirely buried underground in a subterranean vault.
And it forces us to really question our assumptions about the spaces we interact with daily.
It does.
We've spent this time dissecting how disastrous it can be to mistake a highly functional working system, like a hydrological drainage basin, for a purely decorative canvas, simply because of its surface appearance.
Yeah.
And it leaves you with a broader question to consider. What other complex functional systems in our modern world, whether within our civic infrastructure, our workplace dynamics, or even the layout of our own homes, do we mistakenly view as merely decorative?
Oh, that's a great point.
Right. And what unseen hazards are we inviting when we try to blindly alter them, treating the foundation of a complex system as if it were just frosting on a cake?
Superior pond, superior care, your backyard retreat beyond compare. Minnesota's finest at your call. Your pond stays perfect all year long.